was a DPF intern in the summer of 1985. I had just finished my first year at Vanderbilt Div School, and at the end of that summer, I would start my first year at Vanderbilt Law School. Ronald Reagan was in his second term as president, and Gorbachev had just become the Secretary General of the Soviet Union. The Cold War arms race was at a fevered pitch, and nuclear war was a palpable possibility. We Are the World by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie and Quincy Jones was the theme song everybody was singing uh, by USA for Africa to raise money for famine relief. And there was hope that individuals really could make a difference in the world. After a week of training in Indianapolis, I served at junior camp in Bedford, Indiana, CYF conference in Texas, and then back-to-back weeks at Cairo and CYF camp at Christian Conference Center in Newton, Iowa. And then I finished out the summer at General Assembly in Des Moines. At camp, I created opportunities to talk about U.S. nuclear policy of mutual assured destruction. And we drew body outlines with chalk on sidewalks to help imagine the worst if we didn't learn how to be peacemakers. But at every single camp, we read the Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss. And we asked whether the differences between the Yuks and the Zooks were any different than the differences between the US and the Soviet Union. And we wondered who would drop the bomb first. The Yuks and the Zooks dressed in different colors, and they buttered their bread on opposite sides. The conflict increases as each side builds a bigger bomb to stop the other from their wrong-headed ways. The book ends when the young boy watching the generals on the wall with their bombs poised to drop asks, "Who's going to drop it? Will you or will he?" To which his granddad replies, "Be patient. We'll see. We will see." The good news is that later that year, the strategic arms reduction talks resumed. And a few years later, in 1989, the Berlin Wall came down, marking the end of the Cold War. With all that heaviness, a bright side of that summer was a long-distance romance. A cute young preacher I'd met at Div School and I wrote letters to each other daily, reflecting on the news, current theological musings, the space between us, and what we would do when we finally got to see each other again at General Assembly. Keep in mind, that was before the internet, before cell phones, and long distance calls were really very expensive. That preacher was Phil Jones, who by November of that fall mustered up the courage one evening to speak those most profound words of love. "Cathy, I think I could be married to you." To which I replied, "And I think I could be married to you." And then the conversation drifted off onto other topics. The next morning, Phil was knocking at my door. Before he could even say good morning, he blurted out, "Well, what was your answer?" And I shrugged my shoulders. What was the question? And he said, "Will you marry me? Of course. What did you think?" And we laughed and we talked. And a few months later, in premarital counseling with Dan Mosley, we confirmed that we had a communication problem. Well, we did, and oftentimes we still do. But just this month, Phil and I celebrated 39 years of marriage. Lots of laughs, lots of love. That all started with the DPF Summer Interns, summer of 1985. 40 years later, I'm so grateful for the DPF experience, for the end of the Cold War, for that long distance romance and for my life and ministry together with that still very cute preacher, Reverend Phil Jones. Thank you, DPF.